there ladies and gents, KG16 here. I hope all is well with you. Now today I've got two games in the Tier 8 French premium tank, the Bat-Chatillon Bourrasque. Now this wasn't a real tank in real life, just a blueprint project for the Bat-Chat 12-ton light tank to have a 105mm gun instead of its usual 75mm gun. And most experienced players will know the Bourrasque very well, but if you're a new player, what you need to know is that this is a very mobile, very stealthy medium with a very powerful two-shot autoloader that can deal 720 damage in 2 seconds. Its mobility and camo make it very good, a pretty good pseudo light tank actually, and similar to other stealthy mobile mediums or TDs, it can easily fulfill that role in the absence of a light tank, and its two-shot clip can make it a very effective assassin in the second half of a game. It's a very meta tank, resigning some older Tier 8 mediums that might have fulfilled this role in the past to the garage and in need of some love. Tanks like, you know, the Type 59 or the CDC, even though the CDC and the Type 59 have had a little bit of a buff in recent months. But these 90mm mediums at Tier 8 don't seem to have the same intimidation factor as something like the Bourrasque, or the Dragon, for example, is another example of a meta Tier 8 medium tank with its 390 alpha, and then the Polish mediums, the Tech Tree one dealing 300 alpha and the premium dealing 320, and you just get more of a punch with the meta Tier 8 mediums in today's game. So I think the Bourrasque is a very fashionable Tier 8 medium. It just outguns and it outplays the older Tier 8 mediums, but what we want to talk about in today's video is the tank's potential to render light tanks redundant. Now I'd like to know what you think about that. Today's game tends to be all about speed or camo. The best tanks have that, or if they're heavies, you know, they get hull down. And the lines between lights and mediums and heavies are more and more blurred, it seems. Anyway, that's just my thought on that. In this first game, we're seeing how it performs in a Tier 10 game, where it thrives off assisted damage, and in the second game, I'll show you in a second, we'll see the dominance it can have at its own tier, where in the right hands, and by the way, I'm not an expert in this tank, but I do occasionally have a good game in it. It can be quite powerful. So anyway, on to this first match. We're out on vineyards, and we've gone to quite a common starting place for me anyway, which is around about K7 to spot the enemy. We've done that. We've got quite a lot of assistance, and then once we've cleared, with the help of snipers behind us, the K line, I push forward, and now we're heading towards the H line and the G line, and the idea is we just try and spot the rest of the team because I've got guys behind me. You remember in the previous light tank video I was talking about Malinovka, and once your team wins the hill, you just need to push it out in front of your gun line and they should do the work for you. That's exactly what we're going to do here. The only problem is we've got this heavy tank who thankfully gets taken out, but he could have been a problem for us, but thankfully he's been dealt with. Now here we are, Tier 10 tanks in front of us. I'm not too worried. I'm not going to engage them. I'm not going to invite them to shoot me. I'm just going to be driving in a position where I can see them and therefore I can light them up. There's the Death Star. Goodbye. Next up, SU-130PM. Get out the way while we're on the reload. It's very important in this closing out of the game that you just stay alive, because as I've said before, the longer the game goes on, the more assisted damage you can get, the more actual damage you can get, the more use you can be for your team, and you can just see the assisted damage racking up here. 7,200 assisted damage, just trying to avoid the shot from the Trinity and the SU there. Am I going to go on a reload? No, I ate a shot there, but thankfully it was a pretty low caliber gun, unless it was an HE shell that didn't really pan, I'm not sure. So this is a case of just trying to spot out the remaining few enemies. We can see the arty down there in the usual arty hiding place, so we're going to come around here, light him up. It's a T92 I think, is it? In fact, before we do that, we just get eyes on this cran barn and get shots into him. And there's the arty. So I'm not going to drive out in front of him or do anything silly like that. But basically, just keep him lit. And maybe I might be able to get another shot into this cram barn, but he gets taken out. Am I going to drive out in front of the object 261? It's not a T92, it's an object 261. No, I'm not, but I get the assisted damage. And this is an older replay, as you can tell, because it was before RT 2.0. So that's a tier 10 game in the Bourrasque. Light up the enemies. 3k direct damage ourselves, not too bad, but it's really 8k assisted, which meant for me and this tank so far, I think that's the biggest combined damage I've had at 11k in the Bourrasque. Very useful, can easily do the job of a light tank, a very meta tank. But now let's go into the second replay where we'll see the tank perform at its own tier and see how powerful it can be. So here we are for the second replay, and this is El Alamein. And at the start of this game, I'm going to do what I would normally do in a light tank, which is push along the K line. And we're really heading for about J2. And from that point, we get to spot out for our friendlies and hopefully again get some assisted damage. But this time at top tier, I'm probably going to be a bit more keen to push forward and deal some damage myself if I can. All that with the Bourrasque does depend on whether or not you've got support, because you do have a 20-second reload on this tank, which means you can't be sitting in front of enemies while you're reloading. So it's a case of dipping in, dipping out, making sure you've got support with you, and you can put in a couple of devastating shots and then clear off while the team also gets some shots. So what you usually do is come here, J4, sorry, not J2, and here at J4 I've already spotted their light tank. He hasn't spotted me. I'm going to try and get a shot into him. We do, and that is a Vanguard. Always nice to get a shot into them. I am a Vanguard driver myself, but I know how annoying they are, especially when they do daft Vanguard things and just drive straight at your enemy. And the infuriating thing about that is all your friendlies don't seem to be able to hit it, and then you have to come the whole way back and assist your team out. Does that resonate with anybody watching today? That's what always happens to me. Anyway, got a shot into him. Now I'm going to push forward. Artie's firing at my campers on the hill behind me. I'm not interested in engaging any of those guys, but I'm just interested in getting forward to safety to this little cliff face here, so that we can get our reload off and then start having a look at what is in front of us. We see there's a tier 8 P44, and we get one into him, get a second into him, and then we're going to pull back into safety. You don't want to be hanging around inviting tanks to become YOLOing out at you. That happens in the game all the time. You all know that. It's one of the most frustrating things. YOLO tanks, it costs them their tank, and it usually costs you yours as well. So don't put yourself in a position, I would say, where you're going to invite that kind of thing. So I was pulling back. Now I'm reloaded. I'm back here. I'm looking behind me and I'm realizing I've got a light tank with me, or two light tanks there, but everybody else is not moving forward. What we really want at this point in the game, and here's a super Pershing. Good, we just get one into his lower plate, which we can easily penetrate. We would have struggled with the front of his tank, the front of the turret, but anyway, got a shot there. Because the rest of the team hasn't moved forward yet, I'm thinking they should have moved forward by now. They know what's here, the P44, the super Pershing and the light tank, they should be here. So what I'm thinking is, I'm not getting a lot of support, I'm going to fall back. I've also noticed that there are two light tanks just aren't on the map, which makes me suspect that they're probably heading for our base. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to rotate around back towards our base, and I'm just going to have a double check. In fact, there's one light tank, so that's good. That's the Vanguard. But there is an Aguila somewhere, and sure enough, our spider sense must have been tingling and telling us the right thing. The Aguila is heading to our base. Now he's arty hunting, but our arty must be half decent players because they've actually moved, and that's always good to see. And then we spot an enemy red there for the first time he's been spotted. take a dive off this cliff, which could have been worse than it was. And now we come to this point in the game. We'll just pause the video for a second. I've got to make a decision. He's on 717 health. I've got a 720 clip. Can I kill him? Probably not. Am I going to ram him? Well, in this, as you'll see, heat of the moment, I decided, yes, I will make contact with this Aguila. But he shoots me for 250. And then when I hit him, or he rams me, I lose another 700 health, guys. Now, why did that happen? Because the Bourrasque is a Batchat 12 ton. And it weighs 12 tons, and a Hawk 30, an Aguila, weighs 30 tons. The clue is in the name. So if you're in a Batchat 12T or a Bourrasque, don't go ramming other light tanks. It just won't go well. So that was a big mistake, and I got off lightly. Thank goodness I was on full health. But I did achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was to claim that bottom right hand corner of the map, because in being there I can get the vision out to spot all these guys. Because if I can get back to K0, then we've got all these reds in a pincer movement. And the great thing about a pincer is you get crossfire. And so when they're shooting my friendlies along the K line, I'm in the bottom right hand corner getting a crossfire into their sides, hopefully. And this is where the Bourrasque can be absolutely deadly. Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody's got a chance of spotting me. Their vision has gone. With the Aguila gone, and now we're going to be able to see if we can spot out these heavy tanks for our friendlies, and if we can, get side shots into them too. So who can we see over here? Well, I think that's a Tiger P. Yep, is that a Talon? Shot into him, and then the Dreadnought. Goodbye, that Dreadnought would have no chance even knowing that we were here. No vision at all. And so the plan is move up a bit further here, see if we can keep eyes on them, but they do disappear, and what's happening in here is they're not feeling very brave anymore and they decided to fall back. So I've got to get the vision on them or else we can't have this pincer movement. So I'm chasing out this way a little bit more to try and draw them into my vision, but I'm not seeing them. So I'm thinking, okay, have they gone behind those rocks? The Black Prince looks further away. So we need to go and try and find where they are. This is important. Because at the moment, if they're miles away behind these rocks here, my team can't get shots on them. And if I can light them up somewhere else, that might encourage my team to come with me. So our Panther takes out their Talons, so that's good. We're just pushing up here just to have a look out from the top. See if we get lit. We're not getting lit. We're not getting proximity spotted. So I know I've only got 276 hit points, but I'm thinking, well, I'm going to come out. And here is the Mutz. Fortunately, his gun was facing the wrong way as he was doing a reverse maneuver, reverse parking or something, who knows, and we were able to take him out there. Again, in another tank, another medium tank like the Type 59, I could just never do that and take out that tank. I would have ended up being in a knife fight with him. The hull on the Type 59 isn't very strong, and out here the Mutz would give a Type 59 or a CDC or something a run for its money, but the Bourrasque can dispense these two shots very, very quickly and then get out the way and could just assassinate a tank. We're going to do the same here. We can see this Black Prince in front of us on 600 hit points. He's facing the wrong way. 1, 2, he's gone. That leaves then just a medium tank and 2 arties. The medium is getting blapped by our team over on the left hand side there. So I'm already thinking, well, I'll go and find the arty. Where are they? And conveniently 2 shells come from exactly where the arty are. So we know they're somewhere along the A line most probably. And I'm thinking at this stage they're probably A5 or A6. That looked to be where the shell traces were. So I'm heading in that direction to see if I can find them. You know, this is not engage artillery. This is now post RT 2.0, so they have lots of hit points and they're not scared. They're not scared to come out and shoot you, as we all know. Those of us who don't play RT as much. But I'm not proximity spotting them, so I'm going to head back towards the base. And we light one up there. And so can we get a shot on him? No, it's an SU. We're going to try and get to some higher ground so that we can see him. And then just as we do that, we see the other arty, get 2 into him. Yes, unfortunately gets spotted, so it's run away, run away, run away. Don't drive in a straight line anywhere, make it as difficult as possible. Fortunately he misses, and so does the other arty. So now we spin around again, rinse and repeat. 2 into the, oh, it's a GW Panther, and 2 into him as well, and that puts our direct damage to 5.5k, which is really, really decent in a tier 8 medium. I could only dream of those kind of figures in something like a Type 59 and the CDC. And I'm not meaning to call them out as poor tanks, because they're decent enough. It's just tanks like this and the Dragon are outshining some of those other mediums, and more importantly can play the pseudo light tank role as well. Anyway guys, that's all for today. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you on the battlefield.